I'm Nicole Jones and I'm the CEO at Gowrie, New South Wales. Gowrie, New South Wales supports 8 long day care centres across New South Wales and the ACT. We also support children in before and after school care and vacation care. We also have our adult migrant education program in partnership with TAFE, which we support a number of children whilst their parents are learning English. And we also run and manage professional learning for the sector. So teaching the teachers. All of our revenue actually gets allocated directly to children and families where it can make that difference. That's what you live and breathe when you're in an organisation like Gowrie, New South Wales, as a not-for-profit, for-purpose organisation.
My name's Michelle Richardson and I'm the Executive Director of Pedagogy for Gowrie, New South Wales. You have to have a genuine commitment to who children are, a genuine respect for childhood, to making childhood a special time and place.
I'm Nicole Tytherleigh. I'm an early childhood teacher and I'm currently the General Manager for Early Education and Care at Gowrie, New South Wales. At Gowrie, we care for children aged from 6 weeks through to 5 years ready to go off into formal schooling. Sometimes it's overwhelming understanding and appreciating the responsibility that we have in early childhood education, the importance of the job, this first 5 years of life. For me, the more I learn, the heavier the responsibility becomes, but the more I appreciate the job that I have.
Gowrie has an articulation of our practice called Program Foundation, which is underpinned by 4 pillars: empowerment, respect for relationships, practitioner inquiry and play-based learning. It's really important that we empower children to have responsibility, to understand rights, their own rights but rights of others.
Empowerment comes from having a deep respect for children, their worth and value in our society. So we want to make sure that we are enacting opportunities for them to have agency in our spaces.
So it can be down to a simple thing as having a small jug of water and a glass and enabling children to pour their own water, and even very young children. And by doing so, you have an effect and an impact on the child's own self-esteem and their own resilience.
Part of respect for relationships is about all the different relationships that happen. So there's the educator to family, there's the educator to child, there's the child to child, there's the educator to educator. And as educators, we must show each other collegial respect because we are modelling for children at all times how to be in relationship.
Every child and every family comes to us with a unique story.
Understanding who an individual child is and who that family is and what the family wants for their child is really critical to the work we do.
You want the gumboots?
Your child will have a primary educator who they would spend probably 70% of their day with, and that primary educator would be supporting your child through their day, through their meal times, their sleep and rest. If it's a younger child, through their nappy changing and toilet learning.
A primary educator in the life of the family is that first point of contact. It's the person that knows that child best of all. Now, does that mean that that educator is the only person that deals with that child? Of course not. However, we make sure that through that primary educator relationship, the child is then connected with other adults through the relationship that primary educator has with their colleagues, so that the family is comfortable and confident with other educators, but they have their one go-to person.
As a teacher or as an educator, we have a responsibility to develop a program and an environment which creates a range of opportunities for children to learn through play. It would be about sitting next to children and guiding and supporting that process rather than taking over or doing or overly suggesting to a child.
So play is play. It's what a skilled educator and teacher does with that play that makes the difference. It's the provoking question they may ask, knowing when to stand back, knowing when to step in, knowing when to extend, knowing when to go back and reflect or do some more research.
Really exciting things about being part of early childhood and teaching is that we now have a far greater focus on things like practitioner inquiry, where people can research their own practice and contribute to the funds of knowledge and the evidence pools that are available. So we know lots more about child development, we know a lot more about brain research.
That deep awareness about the multiple changes that are happening for children from birth to 3 years, when you consider a child, rolling, beginning to crawl, beginning to walk, beginning to hear language, learn language, express language. It's about recognising and turning that switch on for our teams.
So what we're seeing in centres is colleagues having meetings and discussions before they're making changes in environments, really reflecting on small nuances of a particular space or the way that children are engaging in a space. So it really gets them to become much more avid observers and be much more alert to those nuances in children's learning and development.